Hi, welcome to the Evolving Humanity Summit, where our goal is to help you not only thrive, but live your full potential no matter the circumstance. I'm your host, Natalie, and today we have with us Afshan Tafler. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, thanks. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, welcome back. I wanted to have you back on here because as we deal with stressors in our life, and as things get a little chaotic and hectic, which can happen at any point, but right now collectively we are dealing with a major um, pandemic. Uh, in these situations, anger can really come up to the surface, or at least seems like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about why anger seems to be coming up for some of us in super stressful situations, and maybe some strategies on how we can curb that or help to give us a little bit more of an even flow so that we can function and not only do that, but thrive?
Yes, it's all about thriving, right? We definitely want to thrive.
Yeah.
Okay, so definitely an extremely triggering time right now. Okay, so for everyone, we are all going through this together, and it's just crazy how we're all going through this together. So we're being triggered like from many different standpoints, there's actually a life threat trigger, right? Because of what if we get sick, and what if that happens, creating fear in our system. Then there's we're being triggered with like sadness and grief at the loss of the lifestyles we had, and then not knowing when we're going to get those lifestyles back, and then trying to do it all, like literally do it all with our kids home, right? Be their teacher, be the homemaker, be the work, do the work, clean the house, like
Super parent.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I see like a lot of parents are really hard on themselves, like, oh, I can't get into a schedule with my child, I can't teach them, like it's so hard, I can't do it all. And just be kind to yourself. But we'll talk about a bit about that after. But so it's natural, first of all, that anger is going to come up. Okay. And it's a high stress time. And any time we're in a very high stress situation, anger is we're not gonna feel safe inside, because that's really what happens when we're stressed. We're not in a nervous system, at a nervous system level, we are not feeling safe. Our nervous system automatically is sensing danger in the environment, right? And so when that's the case, when we're not feeling safe, anger is going to come up more often, to express, protection. And so even though like and it kind of like our bathtubs right now are so full that we're all reaching our tipping point way more easily and going into anger. And what we need to understand is that this is a time where we are going through so many different emotions, okay? And we are really, really a lot of us are cycling through many different emotions, like fear, okay, like what if I get sick, and what if this happens to me, and also as I was saying, sadness and grief,
Yes.
and then frustration, lots of frustration about this happening, and then anger at how it's all happening, and how people are hoarding, or how, you know what I mean? Like, so there's so many emotions coming up, but underneath anger really lies those vulnerable emotions, okay? And when we don't know how to be with those vulnerable emotions like fear, sadness, grief, then anger is going to come up more often, because like on an emotional energy scale, anger has a higher energy. There's more power in anger, there's more energy in anger. And being with the more like frozen emotion of fear, or the the depleting emotion of like grief and sadness, it's harder to stay in those emotions. And so anger can come up more often as well, to protect against feeling those vulnerable emotions. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very, and it's interesting that you say that, because some people are just not comfortable with being sad or crying, or just, and which is true. We are going through a grieving process right now. And so we know that those emotions are there, but we haven't really been taught a lot of those emotions. So whether it is that you either lose someone to what's happening, lose a job, lose your sense of freedom. If you're a teen, for example, like you are going through that complete grieving process because you've lost your entire social
Right,
network.
right. That's a really good point, because as human beings, we are wired to socially connect with others. And when we don't have that social connection, that doesn't feel good to us. It doesn't feel safe to us in our bodies. So immediately our bodies, our nervous systems feel like, some sort of a threat, right? We calm through connection, and that's physical connection and touch as well. So then our nervous systems go into like hyper overdrive, and we can express, anger more. But what, to your point of being with emotions, yes, as a society, as a culture, we have never really been taught how to be with our emotions. Nobody taught us this in schools. Our families probably didn't teach us this either, unless you were, lucky to be in a family that was like really emotionally aware. But most of us didn't have that. And so we all have to learn how to be with these painful emotions. Our immediate instinctual reaction is to like not be with the emotions because they're too painful. But learning to be with the emotions actually helps them to process and helps them to release, because emotions happen automatically. We're actually not in control of emotions coming up. It's not under our mental control, our brain control initially. It's like a visceral response that comes out from your body due to circumstances, that are happening in your environment. And those emotions come up and they want to be expressed. And the challenge is that when we don't express them and we bottle them up, then it shows up as anxiety or depression. And we need to be able to practice what I call emotional fitness. Is really like every day have a practice of being with our emotions and allowing them to process and allowing them to release, especially those vulnerable emotions that are so hard to be with, because otherwise then it's more comfortable to be in anger. It's much more comfortable
Yeah,
to be in anger.
it's almost like you just that's almost like you seem to have control when you're in anger. Does that make sense? So like
Yes.
that's your way of controlling
Yes.
this uncertainty and these so many factors that are not in our control. Then all of a sudden we have that ability to control and use that high frequency emotion called anger. Is that like what you're?
Completely. Anger is with anger has more power, and you feel like you're exerting your control, and you feel more in control of your life if you're angry. But the reality is underneath that, you're feeling very out of control, and anger is just coming up to help you, to protect you, to help you feel like you're in control. But then oftentimes, how do we try to exert that control? It's on our family members around us, right? And so the challenge is that it's sort of like a false sense of control, but we want to feel that way. So how can we empower ourselves? How can we be with that vulnerability of, I have no control over the situation? Like that's the worst place for so many of us, especially those of us who are control freaks, have like a schedule and do and control our whole day, right? This is a very, very uncomfortable place to be, but we are all here together. And this is the perfect opportunity to meet yourself there and be in that vulnerable place of, I have no control over this, and just be with it for a while, and all the emotions that come from that, likely a lot of fear, and just be with that and understand, what am I believing about myself? What am I believing about the world? I'm not safe. The world is dangerous. Okay, right now, right here in this moment, is that true for me right now, right here in this moment? No, right? It's always about bringing it back to the present moment. Our nervous system has one job, is that to keep us safe and functioning. And so it's going to always look for things that are a threat. And then that message goes up to our brain, and our brain has to make a story that we're not safe, the world is not safe. And those are big belief systems that a lot of us live by. And this is a really good opportunity to be with that this total discomfort of the uncertainty. And because when you can be with that total discomfort of the uncertainty, And you're actually training yourself to have a totally different relationship to that stressor of uncertainty. You know, I can be with this. I can be with this. Look, I'm safe. Like, I can breathe while I'm with this. I can feel my feet on the ground. I can feel my butt in the chair. I can see through, you know, see the room around me. I can be with this uncertainty, and I don't have to run away from it. So, you know, practicing that emotional fitness every day of really being with those really vulnerable emotions where you don't want to go, but that in the back of your mind and through your nervous system is constantly trying to signal your brain, you know, we got to be with that stuff in order to then not have the bathtub fill up and then blow up in anger, so that then we can feel somewhat in control.
Yes. Okay, good. So like you talked about, and you talked about this a little bit before, so this is a very normal reaction when you're in a high stress situation. So to have anger come up, as you said, it is a perfect way to try to control or feel like you're in control, or false sense of control, like you said, because there's so much going on, so much fear or sadness, or, you know, whatever those more vulnerable emotions are. So it's really important that we recognize that and understand you know, this is normal. Don't, you know, have some kindness to yourself in this process. And then, like you said, practice this emotional fitness, and being aware is obviously part of that. And then what else can you do to kind of
And it's
practice
just really
emotion?
being with your emotions in a way that you've never been with your emotions before, likely, you know? So when we change the way we are with these parts of us that show up, that hold these emotions, you know, when we change that relationship to the stressor, right? Then we're telling our nervous system, I am safe in the face of the stressor. So the way that we can be with our emotions every day is, number one, name them. So name it to tame it. That's Dr. Dan Siegel's motto. Name it to tame it. Research shows that you name the emotion that you're actually feeling, then your whole nervous system kind of downgrades and relaxes more. Okay. Then, so you name it, and where do you feel it in your body? You know, notice where you feel it in your body, because often emotions are generated from our body, and they're very automatic. Where do you feel in your body? And then just tune in on that, and say, you know, even though I feel this way right now, or here right now, I'm safe. And breathe. You know, I do the vagus nerve breathing. So our vagus nerve is that calming nerve that goes from our brain and innervates our nervous system, innervates all of our organ systems. And our nervous system is constantly sending a response up to our brain through this vagus nerve. And then the vagus nerve kind of goes offline, and it's not in that state of calm and relaxation. So we can breathe to access that vagus nerve to calm it. So you take, the key is that you have a longer, slower out breath than the in breath. So you can do 4 counts in and 6 counts out. And like, do you feel that? You know, when you like your body immediately relax. Those are ways that we can tell our nervous system, hey, I'm safe in the face of the stressor. I'm safe in the face of the stressor. And it's like rewiring your response, your reaction to stress.
Yes. And so it's important to note, for anyone who's not done this breathing, it's exactly like you said. It's not breathing.
No.
Like, literally, like, when you're angry, don't do that breathing, because that'll just kind of
activate you more.
Yeah. So there's this particular way, and that's why you taught it that way. 4 seconds in, and a longer one, 6 seconds
6 seconds out, and you can breathe out your mouth or your nose. And then the other key is, if you can, when you're breathing in, to really try to expand your belly, so that you're taking the breath. Most of us, if you're breathing and it stops at your chest, so just take a breath in. And if you breathe and it stops at your chest, you're a chest breather. That means you're like a stress breather. And it's not getting into your belly and your diaphragm. You know, when you see babies, their tummies go up and down. They're breathing, you know, in a more natural way. That's our natural state of breathing that signals that we're in rest and relaxation. And that's where we want to get to. So if you can breathe into your belly, 4 in, and then 6 seconds out, or even longer, you can do more. You can do 8 seconds out, and slow, deliberate, slow. And then that signals the vagus nerve to tell the body I'm safe in the face of the stress. So it's about retraining your nervous system, right? Because our brain will, like, we have a scanning system in our nervous system that's constantly scanning the environment for threat. And right now that threat detection system is very high, right? Because you go out to the grocery store, you can see it on everybody's face who's there, like, oh, you're close to me. Oh, like, this is all I see when I go, like people are kind of like frozen in fear. And so, and then you're going to see that face, and then your nervous system's going to respond to that and go into that fear too, right? So literally you can do this while you're in the grocery store, when you have to go out, is retrain your nervous system. Right here, right now, I'm safe. Right here, right now, I'm safe. Even though the messaging is coming up, I'm not safe, right? Then our brain can go into a story saying, it has to make up a story, right? And our brain is going to go, oh my God, that person's not safe. Oh my God, that person's not safe. Oh my God, that person's not safe. And we're not really like wired to experience humans as being unsafe unless you've had a lot of trauma and you have these belief systems in you, right? But ultimately, like, from the core, we're wired to feel safe with other humans,
with others
generally.
And that goes back to the calming. Like, when we need connection to feel calm, that makes sense with other human beings, and we're interconnected. And when we are supposed to be physically distancing, that can add to this additional fear, the story of fear in our mind. So I love that you talk about how doing this emotional fitness, some of these emotional fitness exercises will help to retrain your response, or your brain, however you want to put it. And it's super important to see that this really, when you are stressed out, okay, no matter whether it is the pandemic we're dealing with, or if it's whatever the situation may be in your life, when you're stressed out, you are at a fork in a road, and you can choose, right? You can choose to either continue down the pathway that you are used to, that's comfortable for you, your old patterning, which could be generational patterning. There's a lot behind that. Or you can choose this other path where and this path to me is about survival for most case. Or you can choose this path here where you want to thrive in these situations. And Asha, you're showing us, in my mind, you're showing us when we're in the middle doing this emotional fitness, we can really be in a position to actively choose which path we want to go down.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
The more you practice this emotional fitness, the more you practice being with your emotions on a daily basis, the more you can, in those moments of stress where this automatic reaction comes up to the stressor, the more you can insert pause, and I call that pause freedom of choice in that moment. But we need to get to that pause, right? We need to be able to insert that pause. And the more you understand your emotion and your emotional states of being that come up, the more then in the moment you can feel that, oh, that emotion's coming up. And in this moment, let me see what needs to happen. I can go down that path of survival, or I can allow this emotion to release, right? Breathe through it, allow it to release, and then choose the path using your mind. So bringing your thinking brain online, using your mind approach to then choose the path of saying, I'm safe in this moment. There's a lot positive happening here right now too, and look for that. But it's so important not to immediately, I think, go the other way. Because emotion, as I said, it's energy in motion, it's a body response. It needs to be released, because when it's not released, it gets trapped in our body, causes ill health, both ill physical health and ill mental health.
Yeah, and the tub gets overfilled eventually, right? It just gets to a point where it'll overflow, and then that's where anger can show up in a really destructive way.
Yes. Completely. And so just to know that anger comes up, and it's like, it's a visceral response happening in your body due to detecting, your threat detection system. And it's not your fault, that's something to understand. Emotions are automatic and they're not our fault. We don't choose for them to come up. But what we can do is help those emotions release, and then choose the thoughts, the better feeling thoughts that then allow us to help to feel those better feeling emotions.
Okay, and it's important that I like that you said this, because in when you're in a high stress situation and you feel a lack of control, this is a way that you can control. This is something you can control, because you can't control necessarily the emotion, but you can control your response to the emotion, or how you're going to play that out afterwards. Oh boy, I just lost my train of thought. So you're gonna be able to respond thoughtfully. This is what I was gonna say. But it's important, like you've gone through how you can notice what's happening in your body. But I really want people to get that most people are probably not very well aware of what happens in their body when an emotion occurs. And it's really important for you to be at that fork in the road, for you to take that pause to really notice what's happening. And as simple as an example, as you said before, you could be a chest breather, a shallow breather. And I bet you most people don't even notice if they're a shallow breather or a belly breather.
They don't until you point it out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's okay. This is the learning process, right? This is how we're going to evolve as humanity, is just like take notice of what's happening, but you really need to really tune into your body and really understand what's happening. And this is not so, you don't need to be a guru to do this. You don't need to have meditated for a long time to do this. Will that help? It kind of, maybe it'll help, but just really notice it.
Right. Just really notice it. And I would say, like, before I go to bed every night, I sit for 5 minutes and I tune in. What am I feeling about my day today? What am I feeling about this pandemic that's going on? Because it's often going on behind the scenes as I'm busy throughout my day, which we're busier now, right, with kids home. So we're not tuning in. And so before I go to bed, I'll tune in. And then what I'll do is I'll really, I'll ask myself, okay, what am I feeling? And if nothing comes, right, because sometimes we have parts of us that don't like us to feel, right? And they'll kind of shut off the emotions. Well, I'll just say, like, okay, what am I feeling in my body? Where do I feel tense? And I'll scan my body. And you notice the places where you hold tension. And then you just zero in, like say your shoulders or your neck, and you zero in on that tension. And then you just ask your shoulders and neck, what are you feeling? And then let the first thing that comes out come. And then what you do is what you can, so that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is that you can, when you think of something that stresses you, like say your child doing something that stresses you out, okay, that makes you angry. And you literally feel the anger in your body, and you visualize that happening, okay? And you feel the anger in your body, and you notice, like, where do you feel it? And then you dial it up, okay? You pretend that there's a dial, and you dial it right up so that you can really feel what that signature, like, stress, anger response is in your body, okay? And then in the face of that, you're gonna do that vagus nerve breathing. And you're gonna breathe, and you're gonna practice a different response to that stressor, so that then your body, so when we do visualization, our brain doesn't know the difference between what's happening in reality than what's happening in our mind. We know that from the science, okay? And so the same places in the brain light up, whether you're imagining it or whether it's happening in real life. And so we can really use this opportunity to, allow ourselves to have a new experience of the stressor in our mind. And so I often do this before bed. Like, I know when I was going through my whole, like, trying to, help my anger and get to a place of more calm, I would practice this the night before. I would, every night, I would practice every night, imagining what I would get angry at my son in my head, dialing that up so I'd really feel it in my body, and then breathing and having a different response to that stressor. And that helps you, both of those strategies, okay, helps you to then, in the moment, your brain, your nervous system will remember that the more you do it, and you can call upon it. And that's how you can insert pause into that place of which way am I going to go.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's basically you're practicing. You're just practicing in your mind. You're just role playing almost in your mind, but really literally practicing that response that you want to see happen. And you said something earlier before about the response that makes you feel good, or that you feel good with, because sometimes
the better feeling thought, right?
yes,
The better
yeah,
feeling thought, not like
but
the
it's
most ultimate thought. Oh, I want to be peaceful right now. Like, yeah, that would be great, but is that really realistic? What's the better feeling thought? So if the thought is I am I'm not safe, what's the better feeling thought? In right here, right now, in this moment, I am safe. Even though even though the this world situation is not safe, right here in this moment, I can feel safe.
yeah,
If I look around me, I'm actually, I'm safe. So the better feeling thought.
yeah, and it's practicing to get to that so that you can actually introduce more of that in your life, and recognize more of that in your life, and bring more of it. We know that. We know gratitude, and the more gratitude you express, the more things come into your life that you actually end up being more grateful for. It's just an upward spiral.
Yes, completely. And this is a time in humanity, right? As a humanity, we are being called upon to really be with our deepest, darkest places. And there's nothing to, like, there are stuff to do, right? If we're working from home or whatever, but we're all realizing, I think so many people are realizing the value of self-care in terms of emotional self-care. And we're all being called upon to really look at what's most important. What do we really value most? How can we see the positives? Because otherwise you're sitting and suffering, right? How can we be grateful for what we do have, for our health, for whatever that there is, right? So as a humanity, I think we're being called upon to really step up and to help ourselves to heal these parts of us that are being triggered nonstop right now.
Yes, and that's what the summit is all about. It's looking to see what is possible for you and how you can thrive even in a super stressful situation, because the reality is stuff is going to happen in life. Depending on where you are in your stage of life, it could be really significant and really profound and really affect your life. And if you feel that lack of control and that anger comes up, yeah, like to your point, we can distract ourselves with a million and one things to do.
Right.
And if we want to practice thoughtfully responding to a situation, then one of the great ways to do this is through this emotional fitness.
Yes.
And putting those practices in place so that we don't have to distract ourselves, even though we might be distracted. The reality is when things do end up triggering us, we can respond to it in a way that is healthy and has that make good feeling that we want to carry forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Afshan. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you again. And I hope that this actually really does help a lot of people, because I know it's a situation where people are under a lot of stress. Anger can come up, but you can really make the difference. You have control and you have that power to make the difference in your life and evolve and thrive to your fullest potential.
100%. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.